Hello guys, how are you? My name is Tania Lopez and I'm the visual artist behind Entails, the platform where I like to share my artwork along with my Puerto Rican themed crafts, but also my journey as a full-time artist. Today's video is actually very impromptu. Obviously I'm in a car, but the reason why is because this topic kind of, I've been thinking a lot about this topic, and it was very important for me to just go ahead and get it off my mind and off my chest because it's such an important topic for artists, and that is money. I feel like overall, in general, artists are always so fearful to talk about money, and it's mainly because of insecurities and all the doubt that comes with it. And I'm not just talking about how to price your work, but just money in general. I feel that over the course of my art journey, of course, I've checked a lot of videos, a lot of YouTubes, a lot of Skillshare videos, and the main thing that people always tell you is, well, go ahead and, open your social media and open your website and just start sharing, which I think is very important because you do want to grow your audience. But if your end goal is to actually make money from your artwork, that is not growing your audience is not the only thing. I think you need to actually start thinking about what your goals are financially. And so in order to do that, we want to make sure that we set ourselves up for success. So what do I mean by that? While you're building your audience in social media, I think it's very important for you to actually sit down with an accountant. And usually consultations are free with most accountants that I've seen. I happen to be lucky enough to have a mutual friend that is an accountant, and I was able to say, hey, can we do a consultation so that I know that I'm doing things right? And that is actually getting yourself prepared for taxes, right? Especially if you're going full-time, or even if you do it part-time, it's very important for you to be able to capture those taxes. So finding out about your state sales tax ID, or not your state, well, you get your state sales tax ID if your state has one, but also how much you're supposed to charge in tax depending on your state. So for example, I'm in North Carolina, an average of 7% sales tax, but I also have to make sure I have my sales tax ID account ready with the IRS in order for me to be able to submit those funds. And those are things that most people or most artists, I feel, do not really talk about. So I suggest and really highly recommend that you go ahead and do some research as far as what the guidelines are for your state. So like that, even if you don't start making money, you already have those things in place, and you already start creating good and healthy financial habits. Another thing that I hear a lot being thrown is whether or not you're going to create a business such as an LLC, which you don't need to. And I'm not an expert in this, but I know that I did the research that concerns me, and you are perfectly fine with a sole proprietorship, which you do not have to register as such. Now you can get an assumed business name. For example, if I use Entails, then I will go ahead and apply for an assumed business name because I'm not just operating under my name, right? I'm operating under Entails con Tania. So that means I will go ahead and get that application for that name, which is essentially is for me. But just, I feel taxes, that is one of those things that is very scary, but very vital to your business. And I feel that that's one of those things that you need to go ahead and start thinking about early. Because technically, when you're making a sale, you should be collecting a sales tax. So basically what I'm trying to say is, from the beginning, instead of focusing so much on registering your business name, transfer that energy into researching tax. How are you going to do your taxes, even if it's not something that you're doing right now, but at least you're working on it. Another thing that I feel artists kind of tiptoe around, and a lot of the videos or a lot of the advice that I feel has been given when it comes to pricing your artwork. To me, it just didn't fit my lifestyle, or at least it didn't fit me. I do a lot of my sales through vendors and online. So those are my two incomes, basically, online sales. And of course, I go to the vendor crafts or craft festivals. I don't have a physical location where I am permanently at selling my artwork. So a lot of the advice that I normally see is things like, well, if you're doing like, acrylic or oil, those kind of visual arts, you need to either start charging by how much you want to get paid hourly, or by units and all of this stuff. And to me, that was just too complicated. And I feel that when it comes to a beginner artist, that doesn't quite fit. It might fit for my crafts. Like for my crafts, I can do an hourly rate. Because like that, I can actually sit down and say, okay, it takes me about 2 to 3 hours to make this amount of coasters or this amount of necklaces. And therefore it makes it easier for me to say, okay, 3 hours divided by this many items. And then I can go ahead and count into the materials. And so it works out just fine, right? Because then I can go ahead and calculate how much each piece is going to be sold at. But when it comes to a visual piece, experience has a lot to do with it. And so if you have an artist that is a beginner and they say, oh yeah, I want to make $15 an hour, but because they're beginners, it might take them 4, 5, 6 hours to create one piece, or days to create a piece, then obviously that price is going to be through the roof. And because they're not experienced, they're not going to be able to sell that much. Now, I'm not saying undercharge for your work, but at the same time, you have to account the experience and how much people know you or how much people are willing to pay. So for me, what has worked is I have a set base price depending on the size of the piece. And because I do a lot of vendor festivals, that means that I usually tend to carry only certain sizes. So for example, I'll only carry 5x7s, 8x10s, and maybe some 11 and 14s, or maybe a 16x20. And that kind of goes across to not just my canvases, but also my art prints. And this just makes it easier for me because in my mind, even though I have things written down for my vendor festivals, as far as the prices are concerned, when you have multiple people coming up to your table, you want to be able to recall those prices right off your brain. So I want to make sure that I say, okay, 8x10, this is my base price. And if someone does approach me and say, well, how about commission work? I always let them know this is my base price, but of course the intricacy of the work, and that's the disclaimer, the intricacy of the work will up the price. But at least you have your starting point. And then if you feel that this piece of work took longer than anticipated or took longer to accomplish, then you can go up. You never go down, but at least you go up and you have that standard. And so I always make sure I let my clients know, well, if it's a commission piece, this is how much it will be. And then depending on the intricacy, we will go up by however many hours. And so it just makes it easier for me. I'm a little scattered brain sometimes because I have so much going on. And so it simplifies my life. Again, with the crafts, is completely different, but I feel that I can actually apply the hourly rate plus the cost of materials divided by how many items. So it's just easier. So that's the second thing that I feel that artists are kind of concerned about, is how much to price their work. That works for me. I can go into details about it at a different video, but for right now, that's just kind of the overall. The last thing I want to talk about, or two more things that I want to talk about as far as finances and money talks when it comes to your art career, are setting financial goals. Now, this does not mean that you're automatically going to make this goal, but at least gives you something to work for. So if I say, okay, in 6 months, I want to be able to have this much coming in, or have made this amount in a year. You know, of course, make it attainable goals. Don't go, you know, I want to make $1 million in the next 3 months, because that's just pretty much unattainable and unrealistic. But realistic financial goals, you know, I want to sell 5 pieces by whatever dates, you know, and so go ahead and set those goals up for yourself. I think that's very important, because then you can actually monitor where your time is being spent, what activity is working for you and what's not working for you. If you're not actually monitoring that, you could be spending and wasting so much time. Okay. What also goes along with that is how much you're spending for your business. So I know I'm a crafty person, so sometimes I get out of hand with how much I want to do. And this actually hurts me, because instead of me going with, okay, I have a vendor show coming up, I want to have this, I go crazy. I go to the craft store and I'm like, oh, I want to make this, and I want to make this, and I want to make this. And I overspend, and I do make the crafts, but of course, I also have to pay attention to what crafts are selling and what are people wanting and liking. And so, and you can't know that until, you know, you have a trial and error, because everyone is different. And it also depends what kind of festivals you're going to. But pay attention to what your financial goals are, what you're spending into your, you know, what your personal investment is, and what's working for you. If I know, I spend a lot of time on my print on demand shop, and I set myself a goal of, okay, I want to at least be able to do this in 6 months to a year. If it's not working, then maybe I want to refocus some of that energy into another project that might be working for me. Or maybe I can start figuring out what works best at a certain time of year, because that does matter. So that's that. Set a financial goal. And then the last thing that I want to make sure that every artist knows, especially those beginning artists, is always pay yourself, no matter what. If you do make a sale of $15, make sure you're setting a certain percentage for yourself, a certain percentage for taxes, and then of course the percentage that stays within the business. I don't care how much this is. If you make $5, pay yourself that $5. Buy yourself something that you can hang up as a reminder on the wall. Buy whatever it may be, but it can be, we can get discouraged very easily if we don't see the fruits of our work. So believe it or not, you making those first couple of sales, it motivates you to do something else, to do more of it. So therefore, if I make $5, I'm going to go ahead and pay myself that $5 or my percentage. And I'm going to feel proud about that and give absolutely, but nothing but positivity, so that more comes from it. But at the same time, it's almost like I have that gratification that what I'm doing and what I'm striving for is working. So hopefully this video was beneficial for you. Again, I will probably be touching individual topics in different videos. Please let me know and comment below if you agree with me, or if maybe something else worked for you, or maybe something that you want me to go more in depth of. But regardless, subscribe to the channel. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day. Bye.